Stories from the heart, stories honest and true. The one, the only, the human canvas, you. Hello and welcome to The Human Canvas, the podcast where we explore our unique lived experiences, exploring the lives of people from all walks, diving into their unique journeys, their challenges, their passions, and the moments that have shaped who they are today. I'm your host, Nicholas Graham Hall, and today I'm honored to welcome to the podcast your coach for finding love after 50, Liza Gene Cooper. Hello, everyone. This is Nicholas Graham Hall. We're here at the Human Canvas podcast. I'm here with Liza Gene Cooper. Now, I know Liza Gene through my nonprofit Graham's Foundation. So we first connected, I'll bet you, Liza Gene, has it been, it was really soon after I started. So 2009 is when I founded Graham. So, that would have to be, oh my gosh, 15, 16. Wow, time flies when you're making a difference. So that's how, you and I have known each other because of the work that you have done and do to make a difference for families going through trauma in their, in the birthing years. But we actually have something else in common. We both were married. We both have a child. And then we both found ourselves, as I like to call it, re-singled.
I like it.
Yeah, I know when it's the checkbox. They literally have a checkbox for divorced on which is kind of wild. But you and I both went through divorce, and I discovered it. I guess I learned because I somehow had heard about the work, I think probably through your Instagram. I imagine you were sharing the work that you're doing to help your peers, women in their, I guess, over 50s is the target, but helping your peers kind of find love again. And you probably have a whole lot more to say about it than I just shared. So how about if I kind of turn it over to you and just, share a little bit more about that part of your story?
And I think I knew that you were divorced because I ran into you on a dating app, but I didn't swipe right because that just felt really, when you know someone on a dating app, it's always a bit
Oh, no,
awkward.
it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really awkward. Yes.
I mean, you can run into exes on a dating app and that can be really traumatic actually,
Yeah.
but
Huh.
um
It's interesting to see how we all present themselves. And I imagine we'll probably end up talking about that as well in some of the work that you do.
yeah. So, yes, I have a side business. I mean, I've been working in healthcare for 30 years, and I would say I've learned a lot in healthcare about love and relationships and really, have been figuring out the different principles that I take with me into the relationship and dating coaching area as well. But the way it started was I had been divorced maybe a couple of years, and my best friend said to me, "You find these interesting, creative, smart people, and you have these really remarkable relationships, and you find them in the world on dating apps. And I have friends who need your help."
Hmm.
She's like, "You're over 50, you're divorced, you have a child. Like, that is not easy."
Hmm.
And she wanted me to rewrite women's dating profiles, women she knew. And I thought, that kind of sounds like a best man's holiday. It just didn't
Yeah.
sound exciting to me.
Yeah.
What does excite me is emotional conversations where we go deep and psychological, and facilitating those intimate groups. That's what excites me. And so I work full time. I stayed up very late at night for like a month straight and just created really, like, it sounds so formal to say curriculum, but I
Yeah.
created a set of workshops based on what I wished someone had talked to me about when I got divorced and when I landed back out there in the dating world again. And the landscape had changed. I was only married for about 10 years.
Yeah.
And I was an early adopter on dating apps. I started way back in AOL chat rooms in my 20s after a big, engagement ended. And a girlfriend said, like, come into this AOL chat room. You'll lose all your grief there. And I think that that's
Uh,
something we all do, is we also want to jump away from our grief and hide from it and distract ourselves. And so I have beliefs that the dating world is a sea of grief, actually.
mm.
Um,
Yeah,
and
I mean, you were married for 10 years. I mean, I'm in the Midwest, you're in New York City, so we're, slightly um, different habits. People might
yeah,
stay single longer in the big cities. Probably, and in the Midwest, people like, myself get married at a younger, again, traditionally get married at a younger age. So I recognized that when I got divorced in my, I guess now this kind of later 40s, I never really had dated. I
mm,
certainly didn't have I didn't know anything about, had no experience with a dating app. It was all like the awkward. I was like, how in the world did we go out with like, how did that even happen? Like, I mean, once we left high school and we couldn't send notes back and forth, like, oh my gosh, things got really hard. But yeah, like I didn't have a lot of experience and I was married for a long time. And there are a lot of people just like me, and so don't have really much of any experience
yeah,
dating. And we're at this completely different stage of life where it's not about, for most people, it's not about like finding the mate to go create a family, unless someone wants to go do that over somehow. But I think for a lot of folks, it's not the situation. And so understanding yourself and and what you want, and there's well, so my gosh, I'm going off because I get
ah,
curious
no,
about it. But so the curriculum that you developed, I guess, from what perspective was it? What was I guess what was the lens through which you were looking through as you were creating the curriculum?
I mean, I'm a very psychological person. I believe that we sort of repeat patterns, in our relationships from our early childhood dynamics in our families. Like, I have sort of a lot of principles that I believe in, but I also, when I got out of my marriage, I thought that I would start dating right away, that I would like sort of topple the first man I saw. Like, I thought I was so hungry for everything, intimacy of all kinds, that, in a marriage that had not done so well, that I was hungry for all of that. But I didn't do those things. I took time and built sort of a new apartment with my son and nested and hung out with girlfriends and just sort of enjoy life outside of romance. And I did eventually get back out there. Um, And that was inspired by walking in on my ex-husband, and a story that was made famous, a moth story that I told about walking in on him when I went to pick up our shared dog. And I walked in on him in the shower with a woman he was dating. And it was very intimate when I overheard them in the shower. And I was sort of, I didn't want our marriage to continue, but I was not expecting to walk in on an intimate scene. And it was certainly jarring and sort of struck me right in the face, kind of like a big slap. But
Mm,
it also, and I named that story that went viral, I Want That,
mm,
because I wanted that intimacy.
yeah.
And it was that night that I wrote my first dating profile in all of those years of being married. So that was sort of how I got back out there, but it took a while. And I was kind of naive, even though I had dated a lot in my life and I didn't marry early. I almost did, but we broke up an engagement in my 20s. Um, and so I had many relationships and many short term and long term, and, a whole variety of people that I dated.
Yeah.
And I think I was always searching for something. Um, and I didn't quite know what that was. And I think that my workshops have been a way to work on myself and all the things that I had never thought about, that no one had asked me. And so now I have the opportunity to pose those thoughtful questions and topics with women who are also feeling really naive and uncertain and not sure what they're looking for, and coming out of a real loss, a real disappointment of all kinds. And so I have them journal throughout these sessions, and then I ask them to share what they journal. So I'll pose a question like, what would you tell your 25-year-old self about sex that you now know in your 50s or 60s or 70s that you didn't know then? What are the 5 things you would tell that younger self, and write them down in the journal? And then I ask them to go around in the group, and if they're comfortable, share what they wrote. And it is so powerful to do that. Um, to have these questions that go deep, to ask them about not just sex, but relationships. What would they tell their younger selves about that? What were if they think back to the most painful times in relationships that were couples, where they were a couple, the most painful, how did they feel? What were the 5 feelings in the most painful times of their relationship? And then I have them put a big no over that list. And that seems kind of hokey, but it's kind of empowering to like write down all of the things that you felt ignored, you felt low priority, felt humiliated,
Mm,
unattractive, like all of the things that are painful. And then just saying, that's not what I'm going to do again.
mm,
So I do sort of a whole bunch of exercises that the women are like, I've never been asked these questions before. I've never thought about these things. And my intent is really to take them to a greater place of knowing, and knowing themselves, of knowing their past. And I sort of joke with friends sometimes that I've never posed these questions to myself. Like, I created them for this series and I asked them, and drink the responses are so powerful.
yeah.
But I've never sat down and asked the questions myself and done the same exercise. But when the women share their responses, it's like a mirror. You
Sure.
know, I hear their truths and they're my truths too. So
Yeah. Because
I'm curious what you would tell your
we
younger
are,
self
oh,
about love or sex, or, yeah, the 25-year-old Nick. What were you?
yeah. Oh my gosh. My God. I would say I think you should date some more, you know? I mean, I actually, on the one hand, I uh, am completely like, I buy into the idea that I am this unique incarnation that came into being at a unique time and place, and I am living it out perfectly as it is supposed to be lived out. So, um, the thing is that the advice is actually based on the now,
Yeah.
which is the past and also the future. From again, that's kind of how I live. Um,
It's such an intelligent answer, actually, because I've never gotten that answer. But it's really saying that you wouldn't want that 25-year-old self to change the course of things
no,
because, yeah, it's created who you are.
yeah,
Um,
that
but
it's
that,
yeah, and through
yeah,
that has been, grief that I would not have known otherwise, that um, was a great teacher and blessing, a joy in a relationship that I would not have known, I don't think, so it's like everything that everything that I could have um, possibly wanted or imagined beyond, like I've already experienced it, so I'm good.
I mean, what a beautiful way to see it. And one of the questions I ask that's sort of the most powerful question, I think, to the group, and I ask it in the first session, and I ask the women, and it's usually small groups, like 4 or 5 women.
Yeah.
So it's people get to know each other. But I ask them to write down what or whom they're grieving,
Mm,
like everything they're grieving. Just it can be an endless list or a short list, like whatever. And that I still remember the first time I did that, and one of the women filled up with tears and turned off her video, and then turned it back on. But it's sort of like the breakthrough moment because no one's asked that. And one of the women said, "I'm so glad that you ask about grief and not regret because they're very different things. And
yeah.
regret is such an uncomfortable, thing to live with." And what you're saying is that you're not going to have regret. Like that's not, you're not trying to go back in time and change everything. It was the way it was meant to be. And you might be striking out a new path now, but how wonderful. Yeah, you've grieved, but you don't regret, which is they're two different concepts.
Now, when did you so you took this month and you designed this curriculum, and then what was the process from taking it from that sort of original content to I'm gonna I'm gonna offer this, to someone, and we're gonna go through it together. What was that journey?
So I think when my friend first said that to me, I tried it. This was before the pandemic, and I tried it in person with some women in the neighborhood.
Mm.
And one of the women she was really artistic and she had chalkboard walls in her apartment.
Of
And
course.
so I just used them as chalkboard, like a classroom.
Yeah.
And I posed some of these questions. I hadn't figured everything out yet, but I like was trying it out. And it was kind of amazing. And we were having these great conversations and it was so intense. And I was sort of writing what they were saying on this chalkboard instead of journaling.
Yeah.
Um, and then the pandemic came and I thought, oh my God, no one wants to meet anyone now. Like it just seemed like this dark cloud had like landed.
Mm,
And so I really backed off. And
mm,
it was during that pandemic that my friend came back to me and said, "What happened?" Like, that was so amazing what you created. Like, you've got to keep going. And so I started again, but I did it by Zoom and would invite women from across the country. So they weren't necessarily in my community, they were from everywhere. And I created slides. I mean, I'd been in the professional world for decades,
Yeah.
where I would create presentations and do public speaking. So I wanted it to have, some glitter and structure and professionalism to it. Um, but I knew I didn't have chalkboard walls, but I would have them journal and write their answers down and then share them. And the women just they sort of love it, and I think that it's getting them, most of them, not all, but most of them have come out of decades long marriages, often where they didn't know they were going to end. And that was sort of a surprise from their spouse, and deeply painful. So there was a lot of grief, but also like what you described, like, how the hell do I date? I never dated. I never dated. What do I do with a dating app? It was so daunting. And so for many of them, and some, had more experiences than that, but that is like the majority of the women that come through my groups have been in long marriages, sort of unexpectedly ended. That was sort of their planned partner that they thought they were going to spend the rest of their life with. And now they didn't want to be alone,
Yeah.
and they wanted love, and they wanted all that, the stuff that you've described you also had in that long marriage, like there's joy in it and beauty, and they wanted that and didn't want to sort of write themselves off. And so I'm tactical and more practical as well. It's not all about psychology. It's also, how do you create a captivating dating profile? What apps do you go on for different types of people? Like, what are sort of, and I've done it all, so I sort of can share all of that experience. And I've struggled myself in love. It's not, I'm not saying this from the position of being in this perfect, happy, long marriage. And I know there are dating coaches like that who are happily married for a long time, and they're the dating coach to someone who's in their 50s getting back out there. And I think they have wisdom and really wonderful knowledge about how to sustain joy in a relationship, which is critical. But I bring something different.
Yeah.
I've been out there, and I've had my heart broken. I've broken hearts. I've, dealt with avoidance. I've dealt with, navigating sex and doing it safely, and, you know, all of that.
So so you started to offer the curriculum during the pandemic or shortly thereafter, or started
Yeah.
during?
Yeah. It was about 2022. So early 2022. So sort of towards the end of the pandemic.
And when you offer the program, do you kind of cap it at that 4 to 5 people? Um, because it sounds really important. I participate with an organization called the Center for Courage and Renewal, and we have these circles of trust. And it's 4 to 5 people, and you have to, I mean, you've you have to have, I mean, there's explicit confidentiality and things like that, but there's also a real trust that you're going to be held by the others, and feel their support, feel their encouragement. You know,
Yeah. It has to be safe, right? For people to open up and to be vulnerable. And, I'm a social worker by background
yeah,
and certainly studied group dynamics. And there's always this process where at first people are feeling each other out, right? Like, you don't feel trust and comfort at first. You might think, oh, this isn't my crowd. Like, you might have all kinds of feelings. And
yeah,
watching, I do 6 sessions that are 90 minutes over the course of a couple of months. Um, and I have to say that it's really beautiful, the kinds of people that might be very different, but develop intimacy and are real rooting for each other. And I sort of think of it as a metaphor for falling in love,
Mm,
that and a metaphor for dating and relationships, that the group itself becomes that because early on, you're not sure. Oh, you like that, but you don't like this. And oh, that's annoying. Oh, that's funny. Oh, I can relate to that, and that's how you feel when you meet someone new. And then slowly you start to connect and build intimacy over time. And I've said to them that I sort of fall in love with each of them through the workshops
sure.
because, yeah, getting to know people genuine, most people are lovable, when you get to know them.
Has the program kind of that 6 meetings, 90 minutes over 2 months, has that been fairly consistent?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
have there been any significant like ahas or changes to the curriculum or, things that really continue to work or things that maybe that haven't worked and you've had to throw out?
yeah, for sure. So, and sometimes the group sort of, and I would say early on, I asked more for what they wanted as I was sort of still,
Mm,
playing with it. Um, but I think sometimes I've had younger cohorts. And so I've taken out certain sessions that were more dedicated to age or to sex after 50 or something, which is different than sex under 50. And so those things maybe felt, more age specific. But I think that that is a group that feels particularly women over 50 and certainly beyond in 60s and 70s. There's a certain invisibility to
mm.
them, and when I ask those women what they're grieving, I get all kinds of answers. I mean, it's the most fascinating thing, but they say their collagen, their younger body, their libido, all of these things that do sort of fade a bit in terms of, what we think of as beauty. Um, Sexuality changes, so there's so much that women grieve. And, in dating apps, I often say that men will lie about their age because they want someone much younger, and women will lie about their age because they want a man their age. And that's, you know,
I love the like I'm really this old, I can't change my age. Yeah. I'm always like, is that true? Can you really not change your, can you not fix a
yeah. Well, Hinge lets you change your birthday once, but the
oh,
other apps don't generally. Like
oh,
you have to delete the app and, it's like a whole rigmarole. But I'm always amazed by how many men lie about their age, and women, there's more pressure not to, but
mm,
women, just do it for those reasons. They want a man around their age. Like that's
you know
all.
what? That kind of stuff fascinates me in that, like, how is it not eventually going to come out what year you graduate? When did you graduate from high school? Or I somehow, like, someone that's kind of paying attention is like the difference between an
Gotta add it
actual
up.
age and what they and so like and then am I supposed to say, listen, you said you're 53, but I know you're 59. What? Like, do I
Right.
say that and embarrass them, or do I have to know that the rest of the rest of the time, right? It's just, oh my gosh, it's
Yeah, it's like, how do we deal with that kind of deceit? And I would say this, that I think that both men and women do this. They usually fess up very quickly, and it's more a matter of not wanting to be left out of your search parameters
right,
because,
right,
you know,
yeah,
younger women will have a certain search, go up to this point, and men want to get into that.
yeah.
And women, it's the same. Men will sort of limit their search and will knock out all the women, over a certain age. So they're just trying to get into the search. They're not trying to deceive for like the whole date or for a relationship or something like that. But it's sort of gaming it a little bit.
Yeah. I'm curious. So, I mean, on the one hand, you're talking about questions that you're asking these women to consider that are beyond dating. I mean, to me, it sounds like it's like really better understanding themselves and perhaps better understanding what they want, what they need, what
Yeah.
they like being honest with themselves. But then there's also then just like the pragmatics like of dating and a dating app. And so how do you manage all of that in six 90-minute sessions? That's a lot of ground to cover.
It's kind of wild. And we always run out of time.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think that I could have made it into 8 or 10 sessions and stuff, but I think that's too daunting for people to sign up for. But usually at the end of 6 sessions, the women say they wish there was more. Um, and so, yes, I think I put too much in each session, but I switch gears and I say, we're going to switch gears. And I get to something that's more practical, like which dating apps would I really recommend for people in this group? And let me take you through one and show you what it looks like and how it works. And how do you enter a conversation with someone? And of course, I'm not even mentioning women who identify as lesbian or queer. They join my groups too. Um, and it's been wonderful to sort of mix it all up in terms of sexual orientation. And I would say there's a lot I don't know about the lesbian and queer world. And so that has been something I've learned. Um, but people have said that maybe I would co, lead with someone who's lesbian or queer for groups that are mixed like that, so that there's really, sort of a facilitator with their own life experience that resonates there.
And then after you conclude the program, because you talked about coaching, so do you actually have then are you providing direct coaching to some of the participants if that's something that they're interested in? And what does that essentially look like helping them like, okay, you found you have a better sense of yourself. We're talking about the dating apps, but then there's like going out there and doing it and bumping up against real life and what you're
Yeah.
finding and what's working and what's not working. And is that,
And that's when they call.
yeah.
Yes. And they call, and I do private sessions after the groups. And, I have to say that it's because so I've gotten many women out there again that haven't been out there in decades. And it is so thrilling for them and for me. It's like it means more to me than my own dating life, like to see them get out there and to have an exciting date or to like fall for someone or have a relationship. Um, but it's also a struggle, right? We know it's not easy out in the dating world to really find someone you want the same things, you're good chemistry or sort of compatible in various ways. And so they do call me and they say, "Oh my God, this is what's happening." And and so I often have ideas for them on sort of how to pivot. Um, like recently I did a coaching session and a woman said to me, "I always cross out bachelors if they haven't had children," because
Mm.
she has a child. "If they haven't had children, I just cross them off my list." And I said, "Don't do that anymore." And she felt that they just can't understand. They're never going to settle down. And so I have stories for her where bachelors do settle down, and it might be when they're older, and it might be not, at 35, but it's at 60.
Right.
And, and that you have to give everyone sort of a chance. And I have stories from friends, from my personal experiences where, and so I give them all kinds of coaching. And they might talk to me about what happened on a date and how to handle the communications. And I'll be like, stop texting, call them. You know, I think texting destroys relationships actually and doesn't help you really build. It's sort of this false intimacy. And it's very easy to get stuck in it because it's safe and comfortable. And, but yeah, so I try to help them as much as possible then as well.
What are some of the most, I guess, common mistakes? Um, uh, is it a mistake? Is it the just yeah, I mean it could be mistakes like with a dating like a dating profile that um or opportunity areas, I guess if you were if you were
Yeah.
talking to your coach or your manager, right? It's like what what do you I'm curious because I would have some some suggestions, but
Yeah, I'd love to hear what your suggestions are. So I've been writing down just like a lot of things about dating profiles because I think you're right. Like it's so easy to sort of correct those things.
yeah.
Um, and I think there's like a million things people do. They often just talk about negative things that just reveal the last relationship that they were in that hurt them.
Right. I
Um,
don't want don't waste my time. I don't want if you're this,
exactly.
you're a that swipe,
Right.
and I'm just like, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
even if I'm none of those things, it's like I
Yeah. It turns you off.
totally turn.
Right. Like you don't want to hear anyone's negative and you don't want to know exactly what went wrong in the last relationship.
Right.
So, like, be positive. Like, share. I have a big portion of my workshop series where I have women write down what their gifts are.
Mm,
They came out of this marriage often and could be something else, but where they feel kind of beat up and they can't remember what their gifts are
mm.
and what's special about them. You know, my son's just coming home. Hi, just being interviewed. So, sharing your gifts,
Yeah.
um, being really aware of what those are is something to lead with. Um, but being positive, like even people say things like, I don't want a pen pal, right? And so that somehow texting has driven them crazy on the dating app or whatever. That's negative. Like you don't need to say that. Just say like, I'm excited to meet you in person or to have a Zoom call or whatever it might be. Um, and I think that often people are so, and women especially, and I think it's something we've been trained culturally, is that we want to be chosen. We're not
Mm,
even sure if we like the guy, but we want him to pick us. And so we're going to be as good as possible to make that happen. So we're not going to share what our needs are. We're not going to say how disappointed we were when we didn't hear at a certain time. Um, we're going to be as nice and people pleasing as possible. And what do you get then? You don't get your needs met. You don't have an honest communication and you don't deepen the intimacy because you're keeping everything you need hidden. And I think that's a very common mistake. And I coach women after they've started their relationships or after they're in them. And that is one of the biggest. And it's something I would say that I learned in the NICU, the
mm.
newborn intensive care unit, is that you speak up if something seems off. If you have a concern about your child or your baby, we want families to speak up. I
Yeah.
want people to speak up in their relationships.
What are your thoughts? One of the nice things about um, with a dating app is in general, like the person is saying, I'm I'm open to like meeting someone. I'm open to having a conversation. I'm open and like where it goes from there, who knows? But um, you do know that the person is available for a conversation, and both people have to choose to have it, but at least there's that possibility. Um, I guess your thoughts on if you meet someone, if they're dating, there isn't necessarily a feeling of like a romantic connection, but friendship. Like, do you feel like that's okay? Is that a slippery slope? I don't know. I'm just kind of curious through your coaching or your own experience.
Yeah. So I think sometimes you don't feel that connection that's romantic, but you found them interesting, right? Or you laughed with them, or you'd love to have more conversations with this person, but you don't want to sleep with them or kiss them or, plan a vacation together. Um, and I think it's absolutely okay if you're both okay with that. And I think the only difficulty is someone might feel too hurt because it might be that one person did feel those things.
Yeah.
Um, and so as long as there's consent, and I think it has to be, I'm not a big fan of saying, I didn't feel the spark or I didn't feel the chemistry. Like, I feel like sometimes that can feel more hurtful. Um, but I think saying something like, we felt like we could be really good friends. And, that was the feeling I got. And, I'm curious what your thoughts are and if you'd be interested in that.
Yeah.
Because why shouldn't people be able to meet and not have it be romantic, but have it be something else? And I've done that, and people have done that with me, and how wonderful. And, we also have only so much bandwidth, so we might not all need new friends. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've definitely met people where I thought, okay, I don't think they're my romantic partner, but damn, what an interesting, stimulating person. Like, it would be a loss not to stay connected to them. And how wonderful.
Um, really the suggestion on like talking or video conversation sooner rather than later.
Yes.
Is this person real?
Yes.
Um, do I want to hear their voice?
Yeah.
Do I
Voice is
like,
really important.
yeah. Um,
And also, what is there when I shared something really intimate or sad from my life? Were they looking, empathic, or were they looking at their TV? Like, you
yeah,
just don't, if you
yeah,
don't have all of those different things to sort of point you in the right direction of whether this person is a good person, a caring person, an
you can't,
interested person, like
and you
we
can't
need
figure
to
that.
see
You
them.
can't, yeah, you can't figure that out through text messaging and stuff like that.
No. And I'm always shocked. So I'm on a lot of these different dating Facebook pages and groups because I share my thoughts with women that are, saying, what do I do now? Or how do I handle? And I'm always amazed by how many, maybe it's much younger women, but who stay in these very long texting relationships, maybe chatting on the phone for months and months and have not met someone. And not only to what you said, like, is this person real? Are they who they say they are? What's happening in their lives? Are they truly available? Um, but what is the in person vibe? And so I am a big fan of no more than a few texts. Like, their profile and your profile should be robust enough to give you a sense, just a sense of who that person is, and if there was enough to go on that you would appreciate in each other. Some texts that are friendly and curious, and then move it to. And I'm a big fan of Zoom. You could do video chat within the app, but like get on that phone, like see if that person is real. Do they look like their pictures? Like all that stuff does matter. And what does their voice sound like? What is the energy between you? Because do we all need to drive somewhere or take a subway like down to meet somewhere and then figure out who's paying this bill? No, we can get a vibe and keep it short. Like, even if you really enjoy it and you think the
Yeah.
person's really cute, keep it to 20 minutes, like don't spend your whole time on Zoom. So I'm a big fan of that.
Now I know New Yorkers like to go out for dinner, for drinks. I mean, it is part of the culture, whether you're dating or with couples or whatever. Um, I found that uh like early on, I found dinner and drinks can really lead to awkward situations,
With money.
money, drink. I've never made better decisions after drinking. Um, and you can, if you're like, man, if you kind of know it's like friend zone or not interested after like 10 minutes, but then you're there. So I'm like, meet in the park for a walk, meet for a cup of tea, like whatever to have it be as low risk,
Short.
not only for myself, but I also, frankly, think for a woman, um, to not, to avoid any of that potential pressure, um,
Yeah.
they might feel to try and do, whatever possible to sort of disarm that. And really, we're all here of sound mind and
Yeah. Do we
anyway,
all need to reduce our inhibitions to zero on a first date with someone? Like, no, I don't think that's a good idea. Like, I mean, I have like a philosophy about protecting your body and your heart, and some people want to do casual and be
yeah,
forthright with that. And if both people are up for it or all people are up for it, you know, go for it. But, you got to know like what your risk,
yeah.
you know, what the risk balance is, because it's good to protect your body and your heart, right? From
Well,
anything.
there's so many new terms that relationship terms, and I
Yeah.
try to stay hip to it. In fact, the first couple of years post divorce, um, I ended up coming up with this uh, new term that I made up. Just this word. It's not even a word. Sounded interesting. Um, and it was I mean, it sort of had this like had these different um points of trying to trying to create trying to co-create the relationship and being able to say like what is it? Because we have these terms like boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, um, husband, wife, spouse, with there's polyamory there. I mean, there's all these different like terms, and I guess maybe there's assumptions out there, but have the have the two people really consciously created their relationship such they understand what we're doing here, what are we not doing
Yeah.
here, what's
Yes.
what are we
Transparency.
it's really
Transparency.
it's really hard because
Yes.
everybody has shadows that we want to take to our grave. So you're kind of dealing with that.
Tell me what you mean when you say everyone has shadows.
Uh, those 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 parts of ourselves that we wish would go away. We um, feel embarrassed about, um,
Hmm.
and my teacher, Ram Dass, is like, learn to become friends with those parts of yourself. Because, chances are they'll always be there, but if you can become
Mm,
friend, then
yeah,
they don't, then the opportunities, they no longer run the show, right? It's no longer something
yeah.
that you run from, but
And you can
I,
love your shadow, like you can love it
yeah,
and want it to be accepted,
yeah,
right?
well,
By someone you're involved with. And that's hard. It's not always accepted, right?
right. And wait, I'm gonna get the train of thought. Oh, so many of the what I find is so many of the labels of relationships has to do with the sexual activity.
Mm,
Like we're monogamous, it's ethical non-monogamy, it's polyamory, it's like that's how we label relationships. Um, and I'm like, yes, that's an important part of a relationship, but man, there's so much more, and we're temporal
right.
beings, and we try and put these fixed
Yeah.
descriptions. It's so the term I hear is situationship
Yes. I
latest.
was going to say that.
Yeah, and it's sort of like, when you really get to know someone, it's like, well, here's my situation. I have a child, some will say I have a child with special needs. I 50/50 co-parent. I mean, the list goes on forever, right? I'm looking after my elderly parents. I mean, we have, especially at this stage, um, we're we're, we're not necessarily, um, you know, we're in the like we're tending to this garden of a life that we've created that has a lot of dynamics to it. Um,
Yeah.
do the women that do you have a sense that uh, I don't mean this is kind of a generalization, but do most of them want that relationship where it's with another person and like everything kind of revolves around that relationship? It really impacts decisions that are made and where we go and what we do, or do they want that companionship and commitment, but they also have, when in finding themselves, they also perhaps want the space to
Yeah.
have
I think
that.
it varies for sure. And what I see in these groups is sometimes great ambivalence
Mm,
about being connected again to someone,
mm,
about, you know, they're joining this group. So ostensibly, it seems like they want that, but they're ambivalent. And
yeah,
then those who, yes, who want something exclusive when exclusivity is much rarer.
yeah,
It's much less easy to find, I think, in the dating world now. And I think situationships are sort of an outgrowth of that, where, of course, they existed before the term situationship existed, but it's really a relationship. It's just maybe where somebody is wanting something a little different. And
yeah,
so it sort of now has judgment on it around that it's not quite a relationship because it doesn't have these things, maybe exclusivity, commitment, the label of boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever it might be. So situationship is sort of a label for people's discomfort, I think, and maybe misalignment around wanting the same things in another person. And, it's sort of an uncomfortable word too, because it sounds like it's not a real relationship then. And I think it is a relationship. It's just,
yeah. That's funny. I do as well. Maybe they need to come up with, because it does. I can uh like a word that
Appreciate.
a word that I use a lot is the word acceptance. And I relate to that word as that it's action oriented,
Mm,
that there's an intentionality around acceptance. Like for me, love is acceptance of another for who they are and who they're not. And it's not some people can hear that as, oh, well, I guess I have to accept this. Like it can be,
begrudging.
yeah, it can be seen as putting up with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Well said.
I recognize that how important it is, even just with a word. Like we use words to try and get on the proverbial same page, but
Yeah.
we need more than words. We need words and words and the energy of the words, and sometimes, like I just did with the word acceptance, explaining what is that, how does that, what does that mean for
Show
me?
up for you. Yeah. Things mean very different things to different people, right? And I think there's sort of not, I was coaching a client the other day who said that she was basically describing what people call a situationship, but she hadn't, I think, learned that word yet.
Yeah.
Um, and she said that she needed to talk to her person about what was going on and what were they. Um, and I think there's also this place, and maybe it's women do this more, but of having the other person tell you what we are
Yeah.
instead of what you said about co-building and co-creating and partnership. And someone has to want to co-create with you, right? And want to build something, whatever it might look like, that might not be the most traditional form of it, but you have to both agree to do that together. But I think that there is that part of people that wants someone else to tell them what we are, because there's a wish and a fantasy.
Yeah.
I
And
know
that
what I
the
want
fear,
us to
yeah, the
be.
fear of being disappointed, you know, expectation usually leads to to a disappointment at some,
Yeah.
and it's,
Hurt,
yeah, and it's just,
anger, yeah, grief, right? It all starts the tumble of grief of some kind. But, but I think that, yeah, go ahead.
so you have the, 6-part curriculum, you have the coaching. I think you've also been, I think you've been doing a podcast, if I'm not mistaken. I think I've heard. What else? I guess share more about the intention of the podcast, and I'm just curious what, not that there has to be anything else, but
Yeah.
continuing to offer the series, and is that, so I'm just kind of, curious if you have any plans or intentions beyond what you're
Yeah. So,
doing, which sounds like a really important work.
so I want to do a lot, right? Like a book about my experiences that sort of has some instructional kind of meaning in it. I want to, I'd love to have the podcast has been really fun, but also with my full time work, like was so laborious. So I took a little break, but I interview people about love and dating, and it's not always romantic love. It can be love for your pet or love for your child or love for your career. So it's sort of bending it a bit beyond romance, but sort of getting what you want in life. And what is that? And I think these groups of women have also showed me that women, it can't, I'm not a matchmaker, though I've considered it. And sort of explored that a little bit because I want to also give the women the love that they're seeking. Like I would love to be able to create that for them, but I can't do that. But I also see another kind of seeking in them and want to do a workshop series about getting what they want outside of love. Like,
Mm.
let's put romance aside. Maybe they have it in their lives. Maybe it's miserable. Maybe they're married and they're unhappy. Maybe they can't find love or they're happy solo, whatever it is. But we're putting that aside. I have a group for that.
Yeah.
But if you want to flip your life
Mm.
and something else, you have an ache inside you and you're not feeling like everything is fulfilled, I want to help you get there. And so I'm sort of branching off because of what I've learned that yes, people are seeking love, but they're also seeking a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
And the other stuff might be more attainable
Mm.
than love, than finding that
Well,
character match.
yeah, and that's the thing is the former program that we've been talking about this time is about part of it is about connecting with yourself, but then ultimately it's about connecting with another, right? Whereas the work that you're talking about in this kind of extension, it sounds like it's taking the inner work that they're doing in your program and extending that work out beyond the initial introspection. And then it's not about the dating app and the relationship, it's about what else they uncover.
Yeah,
I think
beautifully said, Nick.
well, I think most of us um, we have to have the rug ripped out from under us to reconsider, to relook. Um, it's hard, it's difficult to do that on our own, and it's also difficult to get. We are a fish inside of our own fishbowl,
Mm.
and it's not, it's usually in doing like the kind of work that you're describing is to help you see something about yourself that you didn't know that you didn't know, right? Um, and that, yeah, usually requires a question that you don't already know to ask yourself, a question
Yes.
that you're already asking yourself.
And the fish in the fishbowl is a beautiful metaphor. And I think that there's sort of you said earlier that, when you're dating after, in your late 40s or 50s or whatever, you're not looking to create a family anymore. You sort of have different purpose, right? But it's the same with everything else. Like it's time to blow the lid off of your possibility. And it was actually someone said to me recently, he read me a poem, and it was actually a very grim poem, but so inspiring. And I
Mm,
can't remember the exact words, but it was that the most crowded place on earth are cemeteries because people die with all of their unrealized potential and
mm,
their ideas that they haven't made happen. And it was basically like, go out there and make all your fantasies of what you can do come true. And so to facilitate that
mm,
seems really exciting to be part of that. I need it too, right? I have all these things I want to do, podcast, a Substack, whatever. Like I also need someone to inspire, to, keep me moving forward. Someone told me tonight that she has a group of people that hold each other accountable to getting shit done, right? That's like momentous and creative and visionary. And how wonderful to do that, right? And it doesn't have to be about romantic love. And that my 50s have been my best and most creative time ever. And I've had other creative times in my life, but this has been different. And now I have a child who doesn't need me all the time. And I'm not creating a family. I don't have those. I don't want to get married. I don't want to live with someone, like that. So
Yeah.
I don't have those needs.
And hopefully we're at the place where, okay, we went through the game of the ego, and it's like, oh, we can start to let that go, and there's real freedom. And
Yeah, freedom. Like
freedom.
how incredible. And we don't have forever, right? We don't have forever.
Yeah.
So
Before I forget, I want you to the friend that encouraged you that said, "Hey, people need this." I want you to thank her for me for encouraging you, because it's it makes a huge difference. Um, when I look back, and there's like genuine, authentic encouragement, right? It's not the, oh, keep it up, Billy, you know, when it's clear this is not, it's kind of a hollow encouragement versus like, no, I mean, when encouragement is really intentional and authentic, and the person, really was conscientious and thoughtful about it, it makes we
transformative
transformative. We ache. Um,
to be seen, right? To be valued like that. And yes, that's one of my best friends, Lauren, who did that. And
yeah.
how grateful I am that she thought I had something in me that I didn't know that my love experiences could help other people. I had no idea
Hmm.
that was something she saw. And I
Yeah.
think we have to do that. Like, not only do we want it done to us, but we have to do it to other people, right? See our
Yeah.
friends, see our partners, whoever it might be, our peers, our colleagues, and say, this is what you have. Like, you
Yeah.
got to do this. Like, make it happen. You're gifted.
Yeah. I had a friend share recently. She's like, I can't, you just go for stuff. How do you do that? She's like, I think of the 100 ways that it's going to fail. And, I just, I think I developed a unique relationship with the concept and idea of failure a long time ago. And, asked myself, well, what conversations do I want to have? I don't know where it's going to go. The universe will determine that, but like, what are the conversations, that I want to engage in, and let that lead lead me to my next path. So,
And
one,
you are like that.
yeah,
I mean, when I met you, and I think it was earlier than 2008, actually, um, but I mean, I don't know the exact date, so you would know better, but it feels like longer ago. But I could see you were a visionary and you were making stuff happen and you wanted to create a foundation and you did in memory of your son. I mean, how beautiful to take sorrow and turn it into something that helps people. I mean, that's to me, that's like the greatest work in life is to take something so painful and turn it into something beautiful for people. But you always had that quality. Like nothing could stand in your way. I mean, even in my short encounters with you, you just made stuff happen.
mm,
And you should continue to. And you're doing it with this podcast about
yeah.
people's stories.
So tell me, and thank you. And so I like to kind of start to wrap it up with, what are the questions that I didn't ask or we didn't get a chance to talk about that in context of relationship to what we've talked about tonight? Is there, anything that is there that you'd still like, that you'd like to share?
Yeah. I mean, I think that I didn't talk about my own relationships.
Mhm.
And that's okay. But I noticed it during the conversation that I might have shied away from that and my own vulnerability. Um, and I think vulnerability is really hard and powerful. And I think it's the key to relationships, actually. Um, and I think that it's because I have found love to be so not entirely elusive, but lasting love to be elusive. Um, that I've really dug deep into this world and want to help people with it because I want to help people where I've needed help. And I think that's what you've done in your work. And, however we do it, if we want to help people where we needed help, like that's the beginning, right? It's not the ending, but it's the beginning. And so I encourage everyone to do that, right? Your listeners, you, me, like keep digging where it's hard. And I think we'll get somewhere.
Okay, I have a follow-up question to that. What does vulnerability mean to you? Like, what is that? Give me like a for instance.
Yeah. So I think about a relationship I've had in recent years where the person was vulnerable because they let me into spaces that they didn't let anyone else in, to
Hmm.
the stories, the emotions, the experiences, the honesty. And those were some of our most powerful moments, were, and for me, it was being allowed in, allowed in. It's like being close to someone's fire,
Hmm.
and the opportunity to hurt someone in that space and not to, but to keep them safe. And I think it's the most beautiful part of any relationship, friendship, parenting, romantic. It's being safe in that very hot space.
Hmm.
So that's what it is for me.
Thank you. And what about um, lasting love? How, what does that, what does that look like? How would you,
Yeah. So I don't think I've ever had it in the romantic sense, but I've had it in other senses, familial and friendship, that feels like this will never end. This is we're in it. But romantically, and there's people that I've been partners of mine that I will love forever. So in a way, it did last, and it does last. But to be in the same space, to want to still be together, in that fully intimate way, I think that I see it in the world, in people, that I think that's a lasting love, like who knows what will happen, but you can sort of see it. I
hmm,
think you can feel it when you're in it. I just haven't had it. And I think I still seek it. And, an ex boyfriend of mine said, maybe you don't actually want that and you prefer different relationships and sort of the flavor and variety. And I'd say that's partially true, that I am like that person.
yeah.
Um, but it's been hard to see myself that way. And it's a process. Yeah.
We are so multifaceted, we humans. We have more than there's more than one of us.
Yeah. Yes. And how do you integrate them? If at all, can
Yeah,
you integrate them? Like, can you integrate the person who wants lasting love and the person who prefers different relationships for the rest of forever?
right.
You know,
How do
I
you
don't know.
know?
How
Finding,
do they live together in my body
yeah. Well,
or in yours?
the vulnerability that you talked about, right? Being able to speak to it and talk about it. So, finding another person that can accept, understand. But like you said, it requires the willingness to be vulnerable, to be able to share that, which I guess you kind of have done, recorded forever.
Yeah, totally.
So
And then we can put it out.
we got a little bit, of
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
For sure. No, this was lovely. Thank you so much for inviting me. And
Now, when is your next workshop schedule on the schedule, so to speak?
so it is for November, but I might push it off a little bit because I just want a little time between my other workshop just ended.
Yeah.
And it's emotionally intense and I love it. But it's tiring too.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. It's like after I have an event or a gig or I love it, it feeds me for sure. And then I want to sleep. I want some sleep.
Yeah, I know. I know. I need the space to recover from holding people, in their vulnerability.
Awesome. Well, Liza Jean, I really appreciate you taking the time. We will be sure and provide a link to your
Amazing.
to where people can find out more so that if or when they come across this conversation, they can find out what you're up to.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Nick. It was great to see you and to have this amazing discussion. So thank you about something that we never talked about before,
Right. Exactly.
right? Like that's not how we knew each other. And that's your purpose with this great podcast to know.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, good job.
Stories from the heart, stories honest and true, the one